Hey there and welcome back to Richmond Woodworks. So today what we're going to be doing is the part 2 of the dust collector series. So I aim to upgrade this entire workshop with a brand new dust collector, fully ducted and everything like that. So if you have missed out on part 1, have a look up there and it will link you through to part 1 and then come back and watch this one. So anyway, I have a little cavity in this miter saw station specifically measured out to fit that green Camvac 2000 watt 2 motor dust extractor that I upgraded on that previous episode. Now in preparation for that, I want to build a bit of a cabinet here, very similar to what you see behind me with the miter saw station, but instead of drawers, I'm just going to do cupboards. It's a little bit easier, but also has a little bit more versatility around the storage because I've got some larger items that don't quite fit nice and neatly in some of these drawers. So first things first, I'll need to move everything out. Then I'm going to build the kickboards or baseboards. And on top of that, I'm going to start building out the cabinets and extending this worktop around the corner, which I think will look pretty cool. So stick around and watch me put together this cabinet and hopefully you can do something similar at home. So let's go. Fits like a glove. So I know the secret now. You gotta measure 45 times and cut once. That's the secret from me to you. So the cabinet carcass is now done and all I need to do is just make some sustainer drawers. Super straightforward. The sustainers themselves are 300 by 400 and they vary in size depending on the type of sustainer you have. This one here is 420, so I'm going to make it about 440 millimeters tall. And this one here is 140, so I'm just going to make it maybe 150 or 160, just to have a little bit of clearance on the top. Who knows? And the cabinet carcass itself is about 860, so I can't fit 2 of these tall ones in one vertical, which is a bit of a shame, but I can definitely fit 2 of these guys in one little cubby, and then I'll have a little bit of room on top. I might make just a little cubby so I can just put some stuff away up there. So let's get to making some drawers. I got up nice and early this morning, just got back from Bunnings with some little bits and pieces for the day. And priority number one is, after my coffee, what I'm going to be doing is cutting up some of the MDF for the cupboard doors and prime it and paint it. So hopefully today I should be able to finish those doors entirely painted back and front, fully primed, but we'll see, because you got to wait for it to dry for about 2 hours or so before you can sand it for that undercoat, and then the top coat will take a little while longer as well. So might be a midnight finish, but my intention is to definitely get it done today, but we'll see how we go. Right, so first things first, finish the coffee, then we kick off starting to cut some MDF. So let's get straight to it. So while that paint is drying, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the tabletop for this one, as well as I need to cut this down because I want that tabletop to go all the way up to this wall here. And what I want to do on this end just here is cut this on a 45-degree angle and make this a bit of a waterfall effect. So when you look at it from this side, it actually looks quite nice. So bear with me, I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about, and hopefully that will come out in the video. So next thing I need to do is take this off. I've measured everything. You saw me measure up everything, the waterfall, where I'm going to go to as well. So I'll take this on a table saw and cut it up. So it didn't come up too bad. I just need to sand it back a little bit. But there is a slight gap here and there, and what you can actually do after we sand it back is just use a round object, something like a really thick screwdriver, and you just run that across like that. And what it'll do, it'll fold over the fibers together, and maybe put a little bit of glue in there as well, just to make sure it kind of sticks together. So let's start sanding and get this thing prepped for installation. edge looks like it's actually come up pretty good. So what we need to do now is just wet the surface after sanding it with 400 grit. And what it does is just raises a little fibers, wait for it to dry, and just lightly sand it with just a hand sander. And what you'll probably find is that after you wet it and pick up all the little bits of dust, it probably won't raise again. I won't go too hard on it, otherwise I'll go down to the next level of fibers, and what I'm going to be doing is progressively going down. So let's get to that now. So now that we've wet it with a wet rag, we'll just wait for it to dry a little bit, and then you start feeling it, and you probably find that it's pretty smooth to the touch, almost like glass actually, so it's pretty nice. Now, also when you're wetting it, what you probably find is that it's what it looks like or could look like with a little bit of oil or Danish oil or some of the wipe-on poly, which I'm going to actually be using. So good little tip, if you're in a hardware store or lumberyard and you want to see what it looks like under poly, just wet your finger and just wipe it on there, and that will give you a good indication of what it might look like. So I had a comment in one of my videos that I'm never going to get to these exposed edges. So Andrew, this one's for you. Oh yeah. Very satisfying. So great timing, it just started to rain. So what you saw me do is just pack everything up super fast. Luckily there's not a lot of water around, and I managed to salvage this. The paintwork seems all right as well. Hopefully it'll dry. It's due for a second coat anyway, so hopefully it's okay. But it's a bit frustrating because it was forecast just to be cloudy today. Melbourne weather, anyway, is what it is. Anyway, gotta wait for some stuff to dry now. I was hoping to do some cutting of the shelves and stuff, and then I won't be able to do that because I'm pretty jam-packed in here now with everything just drying all over the place. But anyway, I might actually just head inside the house and just maybe just chill, because I've been non-stop since about 8 this morning. So all right, I'll see you guys in maybe a couple of hours, but to you it's going to look like... Right, so it's been a little bit longer than a couple of hours. In actual fact, it's been almost 3 weeks since I've last been in a workshop, and I've been playing catch up on some life stuff, including taking a vacation, because I deserve it. Anyway, I was up on the very sunny and beautiful northeast side of Australia, which is Hamilton Island. Oh, amazing. If you ever get a chance to go, do go. And it was 23 degrees, 24 degrees, and super sunny, which is in Fahrenheit. So Robin Lewis, I was up in your neck of the woods, and it's absolutely amazing up there. I am just a little bit jealous, especially when it's 5 degrees or 6 degrees here in Melbourne, that's in Fahrenheit. So cold, not super cold where it's snowing outside, but cold enough to make me want to almost second guess going into the workshop. But that's why I installed the heater, I suppose. Right, so what we need to do is just literally finish off that little cabinet. So I need to put the tabletop on, I need to put those cupboard faces on and finish painting them, put the hinges on and all that, and then that's pretty much going to call it done for that little project. Then I need to do some kind of sound dampening inside the cupboard. Just for that, Camvac is great, but it's really loud compared to your traditional dust collector, because it's as loud as a shop vac. And then I need to do all the ducting work and all that stuff. Also need to work out how exactly I'm going to be controlling the dust collection. So you usually get your blast gates and stuff, but I think I might go down the 3D printed route, so stay tuned for that one. I have some ideas and I've seen some stuff online which is pretty cool, so I'm gonna play around with that in the background. Anyway, enough gas bagging and let's get back to it, eh? Yep. So I just put this little bit of timber down, just clamped underneath the actual cabinet carcass, and I'm just going to rest the door on just to make it a lot easier for me to align the hinge in order to drill into the actual carcass side. I am so happy right now. So it turns out that those 4 overlay hinges interfere with those drawer runners only by about 4 millimeters. It's so frustrating. I tried to play around with it a little bit, but I couldn't quite get it working. So what I need to do is get some gap filler, fill in those holes that I drilled out for those overlay hinges, great, and repaint the door itself. Anyway, live and learn, I suppose. But I make mistakes, so you don't have to. And in hindsight, I would have just padded out some of those drawer runners and just literally shifted over the whole drawers over 16 millimeters, and that would have had more than enough space for those drawer runners. But that's the way it goes sometimes. Anyway, so let's get to gap filling. Great. All right, lesson learned. The gap filler's in, now I just need to wait. So I'll probably just let that set overnight and probably just go inside and just watch some YouTube or a movie. So I'll see you guys in the morning. So I left that wood filler overnight, and to be honest, it didn't really do much. It'll still, when I come in this morning, it's still super jelly and soft to the touch. I think it's just because it was cold here overnight. It's probably about 3 or 4 degrees in the shed. But what I did do was scoop it out, clean out that hole again, and I used this Turbo Builder's Bog. You can buy this from Bunnings, and it comes in 2 parts. It's literally just like a putty, but it comes with this red accelerator. That's why it's got this little bit of a pink color here, and accelerates and hardens the compound, so it sets pretty fast. And the more red stuff you put in, the faster it goes. So that adds up, I suppose. Anyway, so I'll probably wait for this to dry out a little bit more, maybe a few more hours, and then I'll probably sand it, and then I can paint over it. But in the meantime, I have these blind hinges here. So I can just put these on the side, mount the door, and have everything ready to go for a little bit of sanding and paint work. But at least I'm not losing time waiting for things to dry, because the weekend is slowly coming to an end, or quickly coming to an end rather, and I just want to get this thing done and dusted. So let's mount these hinges and then we'll fix it to the cabinet itself. So you might be wondering why I put in biscuit joins on the end of this piece to match up to this return here. Essentially what it's going to do is align it, but more importantly, I just like biscuits and I think they're really cool. Anyway, so I'm not going to glue them together, because usually you use biscuit joints to glue things together, just to align the two while the glue sets, just in case I decide to change my mind or upgrade that dust collector down here to that larger bad boy, that 3-motor version. And if I do, having it glued is just going to make things extremely painful. So I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm just going to align it, screw it in from underneath of these stringers, and leave it at that. So next thing I need to do is dry fit everything and make sure everything fits. And if it does, it's time to put some wipe-on poly on it and just whack it outside to dry while I do some painting. So let's get to it, eh? Excellent. Let's go. So everything's dry fit and the biscuit joins are doing what they need to do. Right, as you probably noticed, this thing's a little bit lighter than this one. It's because I don't have that poly on. So what I need to do is just take it back outside. So take this thing apart again, take it outside, sand it down, and then what I need to do is put that wipe on poly, and hopefully the two colors match up very closely, because this has the wipe on poly on, and I only did this just recently, and this one doesn't. But this bit of timber is probably about 3 years old. This one is just recent. So depending on the tree, depending on the mill, we might find that they come up a little bit differently. Hopefully they don't, and hopefully they're the same. But let's get sanding and then put on the poly. Wow, I think that looks absolutely amazing. So it's perfectly lined up. It raises a little bit just on the high side there, but I think when I screw from underneath, it'll pull that down. So I think that's fantastic. And actually, surprisingly, it's matched up color-wise as well. So that wipe on poly really darkens the timber quite a lot, doesn't it? Cool, so just waiting for the fronts to dry, the doors, and then I'll put them on, and then we will call this one done. Finally, it took far too long, but we got there. Cool, anyway, let's get to watching paint dry. Yes. Cool, and we are done. I'm glad I finally did it, and I think this video is going to be a little bit longer than my usual, just purely because I pumped so much content into just creating the cabinet instead of breaking it up into the carcass, the drawers, the tabletop, yada yada. So I just want to do it in one video. So let me know in the comments if this longer style of video is something that you enjoy. I usually try to do it for maybe about 10, maybe 15 minutes at the longest. But I think this one's going to be a little bit north of that. So I think this little waterfall thing I think turned out pretty cool. I quite like it, and I think it turned out really well. So let me know in the comments as well if you like that, or if you don't, that's fine as well. So initially the cabinet I had in mind was going to be probably cutting off about there, just to have this one as just as an odds and ends cupboard, so something that's too tall to fit inside one of the drawers. But ended up going a little bit further. I'm pretty glad I did, because I have somewhere to store those sustainers, because I was always tripping over them. And in that middle drawer, I have a lot of my tools, so jigsaws and dust blowers and all that kind of thing. Because they were initially sitting in a pretty deep drawer, and the tool that I needed was always at the bottom, which was super frustrating. So I had to get everything out to get that jigsaw, to get that angle grinder out. But that's all nicely and neatly stored inside there on shelves. It's a little bit more accessible now. Also bought these things as well. So you see like a whole bunch behind me as well as here. And these are sound dampening foam. And the idea is they usually sit, you can put them inside your study, mount them to the wall, and they kind of soften some of the echo. I hope it does the same thing, because I think a lot of the noise is going to be bouncing around inside that cabinet just from the vibrations from that Camvac itself. Now, hopefully it might dampen it. Hey, if I lose 2, 3, maybe 4 decibel, that's fantastic. If not, then whatever, it just looks pretty cool inside there. But the majority of the noise from Camvacs actually comes from those exhausts, and Camvac themselves actually sell exhaust pipes. for you to funnel the noise elsewhere. So what I've seen in the past, and there was a video I looked at ages ago that was showing one of the exhaust pipes, pretty much a silencing box that have a lot of these things in there. And then Dennis from Hooked on Wood actually went like 10 steps further and made it super, super pretty and nice to look at. And he called it the HEPA silent box, or silent HEPA box filter or something. Very, very nice, very lovely. I have the same idea, but I'm gonna have a bit of a slightly different spin on it just to kind of make it work around the space that I have here. I did buy and download the plans, and I have an idea of how it works, and especially how some of the baffles work inside, but I'm gonna call this one something different, maybe call it the Camvac muffler. There we go. Anyway, I'll put these things inside there to save you the trouble for looking, and I need to run the ducting work and everything else. I do have some valves and blast gates I've been kind of experimenting with, like 3D printing my own. And I think I'm down to exactly what I want, but I'll save that for the next video and not make this one 5 hours long. Anyway, I'm gonna leave you to it. I'm gonna stop rambling. And if you like this content, please like and subscribe. And please do leave a comment, because I really, really enjoy interacting with each and every single one of you through the comments. It's amazing. So thank you and thank you everyone who has left a comment. I do like responding to each and every single one of you. And even if it's something like, I wouldn't have done it this way, that's fantastic, because I learn, you learn, we all learn. So there we go. Enough for me. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you all next time. Bye.